I'm Luke Searson. We're at Frank and Lotti in.
Why did you start a cafe?
We've been in the business for a while. We've been doing hospitality since, when I say we, my wife and I, we've been doing it for 20 plus years. But why here? We came down during COVID and we always loved this building. We've been back and forth in Deloraine over many years. But we always thought this building would make a great cafe, and then one day it just came up available for rent. So it was like, should we? And yeah, we decided to have a go at it.
Can you talk a little bit about where you were prior and those circumstances?
Yeah, we were in Mooloolaba. We had restaurants up there, and we just expanded into doing a bar and a few other things, and then it all got a bit much, the pressure was a bit much, and then COVID brought it all to a head. And at the same time, we thought it's time for a change. And Tassie was the only place, looked like, in the world that was doing without any problems with COVID. So we thought that would be a great move. And we had my mum down here already. And so that made the sort of change a lot easier. And we came down with 2 cars, a dryer, and 3 kids and a cat. And that was it. And we started again. Yeah.
You mentioned that this building was empty at the time, so roughly what year was it when you started doing some work here?
In 2021 we moved in about June, and then in the meantime we were both working jobs in different areas. So we would spend a couple of $100 buying a table and a chair, or building a bench, or putting a piece of equipment in or something like that. So it took about 6 months before we could open.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the response since then has been quite good by the sound. I've spoken to a couple of people in the front area and other people who come regularly.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome. When we first started, it was just we were going to sell a few Turkish rugs and a few coffees, and that was the whole idea. But the first week we put out some Portuguese tarts, and then those people came back and asked if we do anything for lunch, and then they asked if we do anything like this, and eventually it just ballooned out. And yeah, now it's like a full-time cafe. We're only doing a few days a week. Now it's a full-time cafe. We've got 12 staff. It's a constant thing, and the response has been great every time.
You do most of the chefing and the food preparation. Is that the way it works?
Yeah. So one thing I thought about doing when we came down here was pastry, because I never did that much as a chef. So the idea was to try something different and practice some other skills. And it was more of a niche market for us to tackle here. That was a bit different from what everyone else was doing. So,
what are some of so you said 12 people in the team. What's the importance of the team, and what sort of skills do you think are really valuable?
Hospitality is about being hospitable and not hostile. So I think we always look for people. It's not so much the skill as much it is the presentation and the people that they are and the motivation behind it. I think that's more important. We've had many people come through the kitchen that don't have much skill, but their motivation's good enough that we can definitely train them and teach them. And if they're smiling, then we know we're doing an all right job. Yeah, so that's the basics of it.
Some of the challenges since you've been down here, what would you say has been the
challenges for us is taking a building that wasn't designed for a cafe and upgrading it in that time with electricity and grease traps and all sorts of other things that pop out throughout that time, and then also not expecting to get as busy as we were. So we went from a little domestic kitchen with one little oven to buying commercial ovens and commercial mixers and getting sheeters, and because everything was done by hand, we just had to upgrade quickly. And that was probably the biggest challenge, is just stepping up from a very small business or a micro business into a small, and then now we get pushed a lot for the wholesale and different things. Yeah, it's a constant upgrading. That's the challenge.
What do you think spurred on being so busy? Do you think it was just doing a good product and a nice service, or? We
have a rule that's if it's not good enough, it doesn't go out. And it's always been that way, that we need, and you can be biased, you can always be biased because you just spent 6 hours making something. But if it's not good enough, you can't put it on the shelf. And I think that was rule 1, and rule 2 was just to bake fresh every day. So whatever's finished, we'll just go out the front for people to pick up or take home, or a bit of an honesty box, but then we have to start fresh again on the next day. And I think that for us has been the biggest part of it, not having something that's a bit stale or sitting in there and it's had a second life. It just wasn't No, it's what are you going to feed your family? Are you going to feed your family that? No. So we take that approach in the cafe, yeah.
I know that Deloraine sometimes has blackouts. Does that cause a bit of a problem?
We've had a few blackouts. There's been a few hours that we've been out, and there's been a day where we had to close for about 4 hours. Definitely, it happens. We don't get it as bad as everywhere else, and on this side of town I think we get it less. But yeah, we've had those issues quite a few times.
What are some of the more memorable moments?
Of the blackout?
No, of your experience.
I think from being here we get a lot of people that appreciate it, and I think that's what sort of builds that memory. And what I like most is when we do an event and we might be in the gardens and we've spent the spring building the gardens, and we might do an event out there on the fire grill, and everyone just brings down their families and puts out the picnic blankets, and you get to be that sort of community event. I think that's what we've wanted most, is just connecting and really giving back to the community that really helped us when we first came down here. When we had nothing, they gave us a chance. So I think we like that most, and that's what creates that memory around here for sure.
Can you talk a little bit about your relationship with local producers? There's some people who grow veggies and that sort of thing bring stuff in. I don't know if they buy or sell or...
Actually, that's probably been the best part of it all. So the difference between like here and being up in Mooloolaba was that we get a connection with a local gardener that's just up the street that's growing parsley or something for us. Or there's the guy around the corner that has chooks and eggs, and he's just getting started up because he wants to run a chook. And we get these products that they're bringing in which we can't buy off the shelf at Woolies, and we can't buy from the markets in town. So we have this, and then we have all these producers. All we tell them is you just grow what you want and bring it in. And whether we can utilise it or we just put it out the front for sale doesn't matter so much. It's just that we're getting this constant contact with product, but more so we're getting a constant contact with the season and what's happening in those seasons. And I think that has been the best part of doing this whole project, is getting that connection. And even for ourselves, growing our own gardens, we get to learn more and more what sort of we can drive through the seasons and work with, yeah.
Do you think, has that changed much over time? I guess you work out what works and what doesn't work.
From the gardening perspective for me, yeah, it's been a huge learning curve. But with all these gardeners that come in, we trade or we swap or they pay a bit of cash or whatever it is that they want, they always free to share tips and you can do this and do that. But also it's just interesting in that these people are doing kind of the same thing as us. They came here for that reason, to have a garden and to have that time and that season and just enjoy those things. I think this is one of the reasons we like being in Tassie so much, is that we just didn't know this was around beforehand. This is just we knew of it, we didn't get to live it. And even in winter, we actually look forward to winter. Everything shuts down and the garden's shut down, but you can have a rest and you put the fire pot on and you drink a whiskey and you're into soups and all those sorts of comforting things and stews and that sort of stuff. So I think falling into the seasons is really an intrinsic value to doing what we do, being part of the cafe and just generally mingling with people and those sorts of things. Yeah, we've met some fantastic people that way.
What's on the plans for the future?
We're in a crossroads now. It's a sort of a question of, we've got it to this size and this peak, and we could go in a direction of people wanting our wholesale product or satelliting what we do, which means we've got to go through another growth spurt, which again has all its challenges that come with it because the building's only a certain size. Or it's, do we look at other projects and how we can go about those? So at the moment it's just a crossroads. We're trying to work out what it needs to be, but each time it's, in the meantime, we're going to do a bit more in the garden. Or right now we're building out the back in the shed, we're building a little fire grill area and a little sort of mini outside kitchen, so we can do events outside, sitting on hay bales and just cook something simple over coals, which it's like how we like to cook dinner, but we thought it's again a nice little community or communal, more say, way of eating as opposed to restaurant dining, which I always find is a little bit stuffy, if like having a waiter stand there and read his specials. I like it a bit more when we're all we can have a beer and cook at the same time and we plate up when we're ready, as opposed to a rush and a service and a smash it out and thank you very much and put the money in the till sort of situation. Yeah.
How did you come up with the name, Frank and Lotti?
Oh, we had that name before when we were up in Mooloolaba, and Frank is our middle child, or Franklin, and Charlotte's our youngest. So it was just, they both get called Frankie and Lotti. We were originally going to go with Harry and Frank, which is Harry's our oldest child, but that name's taken, so there's not much we can do about it. So we've promised him some sort of pizza shop or something in the future. But yeah, so Frank and Lotti, and it was just, it had a nice ring to it. And yeah, we just, in a way, I think by putting the kids' names on there, you have to do, you don't want to drag your kid's name through the mud. So I think that was partially it as well. Plus we'd already done all the, all the logos and all the branding previously, so we just reutilised all of that, yeah.
Why do you love Deloraine?
I think we've seen a few other towns around Tassie and stuff like that, but this one has a more eclectic sort of community vibe to it. Everyone we meet's a good person, and they want to talk and they want to help and they want to ask you about what's going on, and I think we just got accepted into the community all too easily, and it's just paid dividends for us. It's a beautiful little town. Compared to any other town, I think it's one of the better looking towns. And I think each of the groups in here, whether it's a religious group or it's Rotary group or Lions group, everyone has this commitment to just making this area and town better, and I think that for us fit the ticket. Other places we've lived in, it's more everyone's out for themselves, and this one feels a little bit different.